Good morning. This video is to continue with the topic of proportions. Okay. As we were seeing in the last class, the proportions purpose is to create the mathematics necessary to understand when you are lacking information. For example, proportion is a mathematical comparison between two numbers. According to proportion, if two sets of given numbers are increasing or decreasing in the same ratio, then the ratios are said to be directly proportional to each other. For example, the administration trimestral exam that we saw in the previous class. The ratio from approved and failed exams is 4 to 3. So it is very important that you remember the first characteristic I am mentioning is approved. Therefore, the first number corresponds to the approved people. Failed is the second characteristic mentioned. Therefore, the second number mentioned corresponds to the failed tests. If there are 81 tests, 81 failed tests, how many did approve? Now, this exercise, we did it in class, okay? So you have to remember, as you said it, regla de tres, we have to remember to organize them correctly, okay? 4 approved, 3 failed. So in this example, when you read 4 in the numerator position, it means that the numerator position will hold the approved tests, okay? 4 approved, 3 failed. The other number we received is 81 failed tests. Should I put it on the numerator or denominator? Okay, you have to continue with the same order. Up, we have the proved. Down, we have the fail. Therefore, since we don't know how many approved, we put the 81 on the denominator. Therefore, 4 times 81, and the result is divided by 3. Look at it here. 4 times 81, and the result is divided by 3. The answer is 108 approved the test. Okay, this is the example we did in class, just to give you a reminder, just to give you a fresh reminder of what we now have to do in the following part. Now we're going to do another example, but with this more recent case. It says here that a number of people, one sick person is contagious to 8 more people. How many would get sick if there were 4 original contagious people? One sick person is contagious to 8 more people. Okay. 1:8, as that's how we say the equal number here. Now, the rest of the information we are provided says that 4 original people. What would happen if instead of 1, you have 4 original people? So the idea is to make the conversion, okay? 1:8 as 4:x. Up in the numerators, we have the sick people, and below in the denominators, we have the contagious people as a result. 1:8 as 4:x. So we multiply 8 times 4 divided by 1, and the proportion is 32. Okay, that is the result of the proportion. Very well. Now, based on these examples, you will be able to do exercises. A proportion is a name we give to a statement that two ratios are equal. It can be written in 2 ways: two equal fractions or using a colon. Okay? When we use a colon is dos puntos. When we use a colon, then we say the word to. A is to B as C is to D, or A is to B as C is to D. When two ratios are equal, then the cross products, okay? Cross products means el resultado de la multiplicación. Then the cross products of the ratios are equal. That is, for the proportion A is to B equals C is to D, therefore A times D equals B times C. This is the same thing we started seeing in class, so you can either arrange it like this in a linear way, or you can organize it in a matter of a fraction, okay? Now, a proportion is simply a statement that two ratios are equal. It can be written in two ways, as two equal fractions, as we just saw before. The following proportion is read 20 to 25 as 4 is to 5. Okay. Now, remember that Kendall made a different approach of the multiplication, and that was also valid. Okay. As long as you find the results are the same, they're both valid. Okay. Now, proportion equations. These are ways you can present the proportion. Now, always remember, chicos, the proportion son dos equations that grow or decrease in the same degree. Okay, I repeat. Proportions are two equations that either grow or decrease in the same degree. No se vale que sean two different equations of two different total things and we just multiply them. It has to be on the same scenario. Approved, approved. Failed, failed. But we cannot talk about exams and then apples and oranges. We need to be talking about the same topic so that we can calculate the proportion. All right? Good. Now, this was larger than I expected. Let me see. On this proportion, these are the ones that we have already seen, okay? We have already seen this here. In problems involving proportions, we can use cross products to test whether two ratios are equal and form a proportion. To find the cross products of a proportion, we multiply the outer terms, called the extremes, and the middle terms, called the means. Here, 20 and 5 are the extremes. Veámoslo acá. 20 and 5 are the extremes. Okay? And 25 and 4 are the means. Since the cross products are both equal to 100, we know that these ratios are equal and that this is a true proportion. Now, this is, let me see. Very well. Now, based on those explanations, you have to do this practice, proportions practice, and you have to organize the numbers, okay? Remember, numerators have to belong to the same characteristic, and denominators have to belong to the same characteristic. So if I tell you 1, a car can travel 45 miles on 2 gallons of gasoline. How far can it travel on 5.6 gallons? Number 2, a boat can travel 45 miles on 7 gallons of gasoline. How much gasoline will it need to go 78 miles? A car travels 98 miles in 1.4 hours. With a constant speed, how far can it travel in 7 hours? Same speed, right? Because otherwise they wouldn't be proportions. An airplane travels 645 miles in 3 hours. How much time will it take traveling 1,000 miles? 6 pounds of potatoes cost $12.90. How much would 3.4 pounds cost? 6 kilograms of potatoes cost $12.90. How many kilograms of potatoes can you get with $8? Okay. Now remember, all the constants have to remain in the same line. You will have an X on the information that you don't know, but be careful on placing that X, okay? It is very similar to what we saw before, that we were calculating the marigolds and the sunflowers. Same thing. Remember the Kahoot that we made with the marigolds, the sunflowers, the beads, the color beads? It's very similar. All you have to do is understand how to organize these numbers. All right. Now, this is the practice number one. This is the classwork number one that has to be done based on the explanation that we had before, okay? Based on the explanation that we started last week with the oranges and the lemons, creating the proportions, and also with the explanation and the review that we just did. That is classwork number one. Okay. Now, we're going to see more examples on how the proportions work. Okay. We can divide both sides of the equation by the same number without changing the meaning of the equation. When we divide both sides by 20, we find that the building will appear to be 75 feet tall because we're seeing this exercise. First, write the proportion using a letter to stand for the missing term. Usually this letter is X. We find the cross products by multiplying 20 times X. Now, here is the beginning of the problem so that you can understand better. This is the example number one. In a horror movie featuring a giant beetle, the beetle appeared to be 50 feet long. However, a model was used for the beetle that was really only 20 inches long. A 30-inch tall model was built up. A 30-inch tall model building was also used in the movie. How tall did the building seem in the movie? Okay, so you have to understand there's a movie and there are some models, modelos a escala. There are some models, okay, because we cannot recreate a giant beetle and a building. You cannot recreate a giant beetle and a building. So what they did is they used models, they used small versions, mini versions of the giant beetle and the building to recreate what was happening in the movie. The beetle in the movie was 50 feet long, but the mini version was 20 inches long. Okay, so 50 is to 20. And the other constant in the exercise was a building. The model was 30-inch tall, and you don't know how tall was the building in the movie. You have the beetle information, both the mini version and the real one in the movie. By the building, you just have the mini version. You have to calculate the one in the movie. Write the proportion using a letter to stand for the missing terms. Okay. Once you do that, you have to place it in the correct form like this. 20 inches is to 50 feet as 30 inches is to X. Okay. This is the information you are looking for. Step 2. Multiply and find the cross products. 30 times 50 divided by 20. Okay. 30 plus 50 divided by 20 will give you 75 feet, which translates to a 30-inch tall model building will look like a 75 feet tall building. 75 feet tall building. This is another example. When you use the cross products, remember I am doing this very basic because I am trying to show you as if I were showing it in the whiteboard. Okay, it is the same example. We calculate things and we multiply them and then we divide them. Okay, what is all this knowledge for? By knowing this, you will be able to create a proportion out of ratio, knowing only three pieces of information. In our everyday lives, many situations are proportional. The relation between the speed a car has versus the gasoline consumption, because the faster it goes, the more gas it consumes. A plane ticket, the more distant it flies, the more expensive it'll be. Now, here I have more examples, okay? This one is very similar to the one I'm giving you on the classwork. I'm sorry. A race car uses 5 liters every 10 kilometers. How many kilometers can that race car cover with 20 liters of gasoline? Okay, so we first have to extract the relevant information. We know that there's a race car, we know it runs 5 liters and 10 kilometers, and 20 liters, we don't know how many kilometers it'll cover. This is the relevant information we have. Now, the step 2 is to prepare the ratios and form the proportion. Now, be careful with the measurement names. Okay? 5 liters runs 10 kilometers. Now, with 20 liters, how many kilometers will I get? Liters, liters, kilometers, kilometers. You have to be very careful when placing those numbers, all right? Step number 3, we cross product the proportion to obtain the result. 10 times 20 divided by 5. 10 times 20 divided by 5. It'll give you 40 kilometers. That's the answer. With 5 liters, you run 10. With 20 liters, you run 40. That's the answer. That is why proportions and ratios are very important in our everyday lives, because you have to make these numbers work all the time, more frequently than you can think of. Now let's take a look at this other one. With 1,000 colones, I can buy 2 kilograms of potatoes. Then, how many kilograms of potatoes can I buy with 7,000 colones? Okay, it says, step 1, extract the relevant information. With 1,000 colones, I buy 2 kilograms of potatoes. And with 7,000 colones, how many kilograms of potatoes do I get? Okay, that is the relevant information you have so far, and you have to make the proportions. Prepare the ratios and form the proportion. Be careful with the measurement names. 1,000 gives me 2 kilos. 7,000 give me how many kilos? You can do it either numerator, denominator, or left and right. In here, you have the money. Over here, you have the kilograms. Step 3, we cross product the proportion to obtain the result. 7 times 2 divided by 1. 7 times 2 divided by 1. It'll give you 14 kilograms. So with 1,000 colones, you get 2 kilograms. And with 7,000 colones, you get 14 kilograms. Okay? Now, this is the end of the topic of proportions. And you have to do the practice that I showed you here. You have to do this practice, and that would be our classwork for today. It is going to be available, it is already available in Cloud Campus for you to upload your answers. Thank you very much and have a great day.